Dizer que aprendi Nice. Thank you, Wesley. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Triumph Life Center's virtual gathering. We're here today, January 17th, Sunday. It's 12 noon, at least on the East Coast in the United States. So everyone else that's watching, bienvenidos. Buenos días. ¿Cómo están? I'll start us off with our quote. It's by Anna Louise Keating. Spiritual activism begins with the personal, yet moves outward, acknowledging our radical interconnectedness. This is spirituality for social change, spirituality that recognizes the many differences among us, yet insists on our commonalities, and uses these commonalities as catalysts for transformation. Again, that's by Anna Louise Keating. This quote really relates to our theme today, in celebration of Martin Luther King Jr., Higher Ground in 2021, Womanism and Spiritual Activism. So we'll be discussing these themes throughout our event today. We hope you enjoy. It's going to be awesome. For our outline, we'll be sharing some of our readings. We'll have our meditation. We're going to share some music as well, some music videos that we found and we really wanted to offer to you. Beautiful, beautiful music. We'll be discussing some of the readings from a book called Womanist and Mujerista Psychologies. A little more discussion, a little more music, and then we'll close. So let's start with this scripture reading. It's from Judges 5:7, the New Bible for our time. It says, "The people in the cities, towns, suburbs, and rural areas were socially distant, in isolation. Their leaders were void of understanding until you, my sisters, arose as fearless women, sisters, daughters, and mothers in the land." Ooh, that's like very, very relevant, especially for today's theme and just everything that we're experiencing in our lives right now, at least in the United States. Before we move on, let's ground ourselves. Let's take some breaths and relax our bodies and set some intentions. Get ourselves ready for thought and insight and discussion. I encourage you to relax your body. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And I'll strike the singing bowl 3 times. Take some deep breaths. I like to inhale through my nose, hold, and exhale. And you can line this up with each strike of the bowl. Notice as you take these breaths, how does your body react? How does it feel to have the air rush in, for your lungs to expand? And how does it feel to let it go? A reminder that you're alive. A reminder that you exist, that you are here, that the breath is life, and life is breath. I invite you to do a body scan. You can start at the top of your head, your crown, and start making your way down slowly. Your eyes and your ears, nose, mouth, jaw. Release any tension you might be feeling. Your neck and shoulders, you can roll them out a little bit. Your arms and your hands. Your chest and your heart, how are they feeling? Check in, say hello. Your waist, your hips, your bottom. How are you seated? How's that feeling? If you need to readjust, you should, and you can. Your thighs and your knees. Your shins, your calves. Your ankles, your feet, your toes. Say hello to every little part of you. And know that the breath that you're breathing in, that you take in, all of that energy is reaching down all the way to your toes and giving you strength, giving you life. As you continue to do this, as you continue to breathe and center yourself, I want to share a very brief reading. It's called The Promises. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. The feelings of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Take some final breaths. Any affirmations that may come up, you're welcome to say them out loud or whisper them to yourself. Together we've strengthened ourselves in an expression of unity, love, and purpose to better relate to self, others, and the environment. Ashe. Thank you. All right. So hi everybody, welcome. This slide is outdated, so I'm just going to speak and say today we will be again celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Technically the holiday is tomorrow, January 18th. This event is in honor of his birthday. It's normally celebrated as a day of service, so a lot of people may be volunteering or doing righteous acts tomorrow, as they should be always. It's a celebration of civil rights and his leadership. We're bringing this idea of higher ground and the idea of womanism, which I will explain a little bit further, because Martin Luther King Jr. believed in peace through nonviolence. He believes that, and so do we, that change is important, but how do we get that change spiritually? There's so much fear and hatred and, quite honestly, ignorance that we've seen in the news, that we've experienced in our lives, especially the past few weeks. So we're really trying to search for an inner peace. How do we begin to form unity and to be in solidarity even with our differences? How can we lift ourselves up to a higher ground? How can we get ourselves closer to divinity, to clarity, to consciousness and truth? When we start taking steps towards righteousness, that is what will bring us to a higher ground. So that's what we'll be discussing today. Um, we have some readings. If there's any questions or comments that come up, we would love to hear from you. If you're in the Zoom room, you can unmute and speak. If you're on social media, on Facebook, you're welcome to comment and we'll address them throughout the session today. So relax, enjoy yourself. We're here for you. Thanks. I'll pass it to Nadia.
Triumph's 7 life-affirming principles basis. 1. We affirm that life is in the breath and breath is life. Therefore, we join together to promote our shared humanity and inseparable breath. 2. We affirm that we are born whole, complete as perfect manifestations of the universal mind, Christ. 3. We affirm our physical bodies differ and as such may present different challenges, limitations, or privileges that everyone may not share in. Therefore, we join together to share our strengths and support one another where there may be weaknesses so that we all may enjoy the fullness of life. We affirm that our agreement is to pursue peace, walk in truth, uphold justice tempered with mercy. We affirm that we are like branches on a tree. Although we may grow in different directions, we share a common root, and as such, we pledge to respect each person's path even as it may differ from one's own. We agree to walk in agreement that it is all right to disagree, and we protect and safeguard this right in so much as the state of disagreement upholds an affirmation of life. We affirm that community building is the process of communal, shared principles, shared resources, as well as equitable access to resources. Therefore, we commit to being agents of an open culture that welcomes everyone to participate in the life of the community, with the provision that we also hold each other accountable for acts that do not support the life affirming principles of our awareness while equally looking for and enacting a commitment to forgive and restore in the spirit of humility and love. Lastly, we affirm the earth and all that dwell therein are manifestations held within the universal mind, Christ, and humanity's role is to be faithful stewards of this earth by demonstrating respect and dignity for all beings, the sacredness of Mother Earth, and our commitment to caring for her as we care for ourselves.
Thank you. A lot of those life affirming principles really relate to the concept of womanism as well. We want to share this poem, this song, Higher Ground by Johnson Oatman Jr. Um, I'll just read it to you and we'll share an artist singing it. We'll share a few minutes of it, so you're welcome to just relax and enjoy. So, higher ground. I'm pressing on the upward way. New heights I'm gaining every day. Still praying as I'm onward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and let me stand by faith on heaven's tableland. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. My heart has no desire to stay where doubts arise and fears dismay. Though some may dwell where those abound, my prayer, my aim is higher ground. I want to live above the world. Though Satan's darts at me are hurled, for faith has caught the joyful sound, the song of saints on higher ground. I want to scale the utmost height and catch a gleam of glory bright. But still, I'll pray till heaven I've found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. That's so beautiful. um, so we're gonna share a short clip. Again, as I said, relax, enjoy, listen to the music. This is by Toyin Poju Oyemade. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I think I did pretty good. All right. I will
Uh,
share that link to this video in the chat as soon as I stop sharing the screen. But that was really, really cool. That was
oh,
beautiful.
beautiful.
Oh. Before we continue, I realized I forgot to mention that dun, 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 this upcoming week we are having our virtual art series. The theme is rebirth and creation, and we're really just kind of trying to cultivate a space, some time together to really share the beauty of art and discussion and community, especially with everything that's been going on in our country, in the United States, the past few weeks. And for years and years and years. And essentially, this is leading up to our annual board meeting. I encourage you, if you're listening, if you're interested, if you have any artwork, meaning poetry, meaning quotes, meaning writing that you have, any artwork, visual artwork, or music or songs that you have that you would like to share, you're welcome to join the call and share them. You can submit your work to us through our email, triumphlifecenter@gmail.com, and we'll be sharing your work during our calls. Each of these days we'll be meeting at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll be sending out information this week with the Zoom links and how to sign on and everything. But we really encourage you to join us. It's going to be awesome. All right. All right. And again, that was by Toyin Poju Oyemade. That was beautiful. um, all right. So our opening prayer. Let me just fix this. Unity of all, Hanto-yo. Hanto-yo means clear the way in the Lakota. Let us pray, God of surprises, you call us from the narrowness of our traditions to new ways of being church, from the captivities of our culture to creative witness for justice, from the smallness of our horizons to the bigness of your vision. Clear the way in us, your people, that we might call others to freedom and renewed faith. Clear the way in us, your people, that we might call others to wholeness and integrity. Great Spirit, you call us from fear to faithfulness, from clutter to clarity, from a desire to control to deeper trust, from the refusal to love to a readiness to risk. Clear the way in us, your people, that we might all know the beauty and power and danger of the gospel. Ashe.
Ashe.
In the interest of time, I'll give you a short summary and we'll move on to our sacred readings. But generally, as you know, Triumph Life Center opened October 19th, 2019, under the umbrella of Triumph the Church of the New Age International. Our founder, Bishop Elias Dempsey Smith, had a vision of a New World system that he fully believed was attainable through the shared practice of spiritual principles that leads to our collective awakening or higher expression of the divine. Our mission in general is to promote the creation of new cultural practices and social and economic systems that are egalitarian, to create a safe and sacred space where marginalized individuals and communities who may not have equal access to opportunities can connect up, to honor the Sabbath as a time for individual and collective spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental well-being through shared music, spoken word, sacred readings, and when we're together, a meal. Our goal is to be a hub for conversations envisioning new world orders, creative arts expressions, social entrepreneurships, community-owned sustainable food systems, reverence and care for the earth and all life forms, forming alliances and building bridges across community barriers, and a space for people of all faiths, cultures, ethnicities, races, genders, orientations, etc., to be in community with each other. Take it away, Wes.
Okay, I'm gonna play the song called Tempo.
It's a song composed by me and my friend called Jackie
Wonderful.
Ribas.
Did you say composed by you, Wes?
Yes, yes.
Called Thankful?
Tempo, which means time.
Okay.
You can see that on Spotify. I can put the link later.
Long fight. Only way your past can defeat you if you let it. Only way you can win if you believe you can. Only way to lose if you to give up. Only way to win, not to give up. You will get hit. You will get hurt. Just don't quit. Cry now. Laugh later. Feel what you need to feel, then release it. Throw it away. Don't look back. Don't go back. I know it hurt. I know it takes time. But I want you to get back on your feet. I want you to heal. God said He will give you more than you lost. You're strong. So cry now so you can laugh later. Freedom by Jane Coleman. I came to more freedom when it was I who realized I had made an enemy of me to me. And more freedom came when it was I who realized we are of the same sameness. And more freedom came when it was I who realized I had made a slave of me to something, someone, some other, not me, not for me. And more
It's
freedom
not
came
confusing, but Grammarly.
when it was I who realized I could take the chains, take off the chains, link by link, and return them to that something, someone, some other, who tried to bind me, blind me. But with that, but with what I can see, I came more freedom when I found a core that was me. Welcome home. We've been watching you for a long time. To endure so much and still have a pure heart. We can't rewind time, but we can give you a fresh start. What you've been through become beautiful art. Welcome home. This is a place that scars become testimony. Every birth will be a ceremony. Welcome home. This is where you belong. Welcome to Triumph Church.
Ashe. Thank you, Trav. Thank you, Wes. Wes, I like the beat. I like the tune. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice. We had a very musical morning so far. Afternoon. I don't know what you consider.
It's fine. Very inspiring.
Um, okay, so we'll start getting into our discussion. It's really centered around this book that I was introduced to the last few months. So I'm in school right now. I was assigned a chapter to read from this, and it was just truly like mesmerizing and beautiful and stunning. And so I really wanted to share that with everyone and
Bonita.
kind of explore it
Oh my
a little bit
god, wow, is
further.
that thing that happens?
I hear also, I'm just gonna mute everyone. I hear voices. Sorry. um, so, yeah, this book is called Womanist and Mujerista Psychologies, Voices of Fire, Acts of Courage. It's basically a compilation of articles, research, theories about womanism and psychology, therapy, counseling. It's edited by Thema Bryant-Davis and Lillian Comas-Díaz. This was created or put together in 2016. It really speaks to our theme, higher ground, womanism and spiritual activism. I chose some specific sections that I wanted to share with everyone. So I'll just begin. This is page 124. Basically the definition of womanism. We've discussed in the past this idea of feminism, but what is womanism? Based on Alice Walker's definition of a womanist, 1983, as a black feminist or feminist of color who is committed to survival and wholeness of entire people, male and female, womanism is a school of philosophy designed to dismantle systemic oppression in the face of ongoing assaults. And, to sustain themselves, womanists honor the spirit. Womanism encompasses the spiritual, communal, and psychological aspects of a woman. Another quote, whereas black feminist and womanist theologians have focused on relationships among people and cultures, one person, Victorine Vangerood, challenged people to consider all of creation in the connectedness of people to each other and the earth, including the islands, continents, which are essentially large islands, and the role and depth of the ocean in connecting, dividing, and constantly reshaping all of existence. Deep examination increases understanding of the fluidity of boundaries among life, spirit, and creation observed and yet to be known. I kind of wanted to tack that little bit onto the definition of womanism. I think that we really tend to think about society and civilization and people and culture, and not consider the earth that we are on, the environment that surrounds us, the air, the water, the food that nourishes us, and how that in itself is also a part of our spirituality and our being in general, how that can bring us to a higher ground. I want to clarify the difference between feminism and womanism. From what I understand, womanism is a rejection of like the first wave of feminism or white feminism, where white women would really fight for their rights, and not consider intersectionality or this idea that social class, race, ethnicity, ability, age, among other demographics, make a huge effect or influence our perception of reality and the things, the resources, the experiences that we have access to. So feminism is one thing that I had read. I don't have the quote right now, but it was kind of how they compared it to this idea of color. Feminism is like a shade of lavender, kind of like pale. But when you consider womanism, that's like a deep and rich purple. It's saturated. It's rich. It's full. It's, I suppose it's just the considering intersectionality as well as this idea of the women's equality. And again, womanism is this idea of, or a philosophy that really incorporates the equality of all mankind, of all humankind, I should say, and equity. So I wanted to bring that up. Does anyone have anything to say? Any questions? Any thoughts that have come up?
Thank you, Brenda, for just sharing that and explaining it in the way that you did. I think when I think of womanist theology, as you said, a rejection of first wave, quote unquote, white feminism. I think back to, say, the Sojourner Truth and Ain't I a Woman Too, and the abolitionist movement and the suffrage movement that Black women, women of African descent here in this country very much participated in, but that sisterhood alignment with white women yet had not been forged, even up into the 60s when we see this first wave of feminism. So yeah, it was a repudiation of that, but more than that, it was a celebration that as women, we're not necessarily all the same. That's where the intersectionality piece is so important. You can't have, white women representing all women globally because their experiences are not the same. And so intersectionality was very important in understanding this. Thank you, Brenda, for sharing that.
I would say another thing to consider is even if there are two people or communities that experience similar intersectional identities or even identical intersectional identities, that doesn't mean that their experiences are the same. And that could be because of age, or that could be because of location. So it's really just kind of considering that there's no real way to generalize an entire community or population of people. Is there anything else that anyone would like to say? All right, I will continue. I'm going to share another brief reading. This is the idea of mujerismo. Mujerismo is essentially womanism in Spanish. So let's start. This section is titled Naming Themselves. Mujeristas, Psychospiritual Baptism. It starts with a quote, "The first act of liberation is to name ourselves." The Mujerista theology emerged out of the intersection of cultural theology, feminist theology, and liberation theology. Mujeristas own a conceptual debt to the theology of liberation because this orientation considers justice, social action, and love as inseparable. However, Mujeristas joined other Latina feminist theologians in criticizing liberation theology for its absence of gender equality. In this vein, the Mujerista approach fosters Latinas' resistance, subversion, reconstruction, activism, and liberation. Inspired by womanist theologians, Comas-Díaz in 1994 exhorted Latina feminist theologians to name themselves mujeristas, to develop a new consciousness. Through this process, mujeristas resist oppression, recover their voice, reauthor their life story, chart their own journey, and engage in social justice action. In particular, mujeristas fight structures of domination that relate to the intersection of race, ethnicity, culture, class, sexual orientation, language, cultural trauma, and location in the construction of a racialized gender identity. Mujeristas' psychospiritual baptism strengthens their resilience, agency, and self-determination. Even more important, mujeristas give birth to themselves. Through this process, they acknowledge their ancestral legacy, recover their cultural memory, affirm their collective unconsciousness, change negative cognitions, emotions, and behaviors, and deepen their gendered spiritual gifts. In sum, mujeristas embark on a psycho-spiritual journey toward personal and collective transformation. I guess I want to point out something that this made me think of is like the idea that they name themselves. They chose to say that they are mujeristas rather than feministas. Similar, as I said, the difference between feminist and womanist. And it kind of reminds me about what James Coleman, one of our board members, talks about, and this idea of language and how important it is, and how it can divide, but it can also like birth something new by naming something and giving it value in that way, by giving it, I guess, a label or language that you can use to communicate that new idea. That in itself is powerful. It is empowering. So that's kind of interesting. And I really like the line, mujeristas give birth to themselves. And I think that you can really even replace that word mujeristas with like anyone. People can give birth to themselves and recreate and start anew always, every day that they wake up and every breath that they take and every decision that they make. You have power of rebirth. Even if you do not identify as a woman or you are not female, you have the power to rebirth. Shall I continue? Does anyone have anything to say?
I don't know, did you unmute everyone? I know you had muted everyone before. I don't know if everyone is still muted.
People are still muted, but they have the power to unmute if they choose.
I just wanted to ditto the three things that you mentioned. I think is so important from this piece is self-naming, finding one's voice, and the idea that you can give birth to yourself. And I think that's really the gift of spirituality for everyone. It's not a gender-based spirituality, but it's a universal spirituality. And it's a universal truth, I think, for all of humanity, is that, and I think this is what at the heart of Christianity and other religious traditions are getting at, that you can be reborn, not because of someone's death, but because you have the power within you to rise up. You have the power within you to recreate yourself by renaming, by finding your voice, and giving birth to yourself. So that any point in our life, as an individual, we can pause and we can say, push the pause, stop button, and start again, anew. And I think that is so profound.
You can change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. I think that's something that I'm really starting to learn. There's no shame in making a mistake and using those mistakes as lessons so that you can adjust and adapt and evolve. It's okay to change your mind.
And I think this is what, in some way, I know, Brenda, you're pursuing a career in counseling. My sister Bandley is a licensed clinician. But the idea of professional counselors, I think, is as facilitators of helping that rebirth. I think this is what ministers or priests or rabbis and those that are shamans, perhaps, in a way, are like those that help to give birth. Those who facilitate birth. They're not the seed planter. They're not even the seed bearer, but they are the ones who, through their skill and hands and guidance, help us to give birth. So I think that's the whole part of this text is helping to give birth to a new you, whoever you are, across gender lines.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Midwife is the word I was trying to think of, and it was escaping me. That in some way that midwifery is a spiritual term. It's a spiritual notion that we can have skills, we can be trained, we can learn to help others give birth.
Thank you. I will continue. A central mujerista value is the representation of the everyday Latina. Based on women's lived experience, Mujeristas create a Latina feminist worldview grounded in their condition as women of color, ancestral wisdom, spiritual traditions, and cultural beliefs. In this way, Mujeristas focus on alternative forms of knowledge and engage in oppositional strategies to survive, resist, decolonize, and optimize their personal and collective development. Within this framework, Diaz in 2004 interpreted Latina survivalist resilience as La lucha continues. La lucha is like the fight, or the daily self-actualizing struggle. I really want to emphasize the word daily. Spirituality permeates Mujeristas' lives. Greetings, farewells, prayers, stories, teachings, sayings, proverbs, songs, and testimonios echo psychospirituality on a daily basis. Mujeristas interact with the invisible realm through contact with deities, saints, ancestors, spirits, and energy. They engage in spiritual practices such as praying, altar making, and lighting candles as coping mechanisms. Indeed, most Latinos or Latinas have reported experiencing supernatural and metaphysical events, including visions, intuitions, and prophetic dreams. In this way, Mujeristas honor myth, ritual, tradition, ceremony, service to humanity, and creativity. Within this psychocultural context, Mujerista psychologists developed theory and practice based on Latina's worldviews, her story, struggles, spirituality, voice, life circumstances, place, and lived experiences. So again, this idea of practicing your spirituality daily and being in service to not only yourself and your divine soul and light, but also realizing that it's collective. It's always me and the interconnectedness. How am I connected to the rest of this world? I don't think there's such a thing as just me being just me, only me. I really appreciate that, the idea of consistent daily practice and the idea of community, communal experience, and an obligation for community love. So, does anyone have anything to comment, anything to say? I have one little section more that I'll share with everyone.
Go ahead. Why don't you go ahead, Brenda?
All right. So this section is called Mujerista Spiritual Activism. And it starts with the quote that we had shared earlier when we first opened, that spiritual activism begins with the personal and moves outward. Gloria Anzaldúa defined spiritual activism as a combination of social activism with a spiritual vision. A spiritual activism requires self-reflection, development, and engagement in compassionate acts designed to achieve social change. Following this reasoning, Mujerista psychologists engage in spiritual activism. They commit to being of service to their communities because, as Ramsey in 2012 noted, service to others is a form of activism rooted in compassion and love. I really, really like that. Caring for others is a revolutionary act. Similar to sacred activists, Mujerista psychologists embrace their own specific form of service and develop networks of grace, composed of like-minded women who behave with passion, heart, and love. In this capacity, Mujerista psychologists, or just people, act with dignity and compassion as means of coping with oppression. They examine the nefarious effects of oppression and assist women in developing a coalitional consciousness and a collective state of being. to endorse a global solidarity with all oppressed people. Mujeristas immerse themselves in hope. According to Anzaldúa in 2002, spiritual activists' immersion refers to the use of hope to uncover possibilities to engage in transformation. Mujerista psychologists pledge to not participate in and to not benefit from oppressive structures. Mujeristas seek to honor and develop their spiritual vision. A spiritual vision refers to an inner knowledge of one's purpose in the universe. Consistent with these notions, a spiritual vision is a type of intuition, or la facultad. Within this context, la facultad is a survivalist mechanism involving an innate seeing and understanding of power dynamics, allowing mujeristas to engage in a positive and functional coping. This intuitive process helps them to nurture their psychic abilities, and in doing so, they're transformed into visionaries, seers, and prophets, or tellers of truth. I think I'll leave it at that. Mujerista psychologists use their spiritual gifts to engage in a sacred service toward their communities and to work toward leaving a legacy of peace and equality for future generations.
That was so powerful, Brenda. I just want to hear other people's thoughts on it. Just very powerful.
Good afternoon. I had just texted Brenda to see if she could put the name of the book in the chat because I so do want to read that book.
Sure.
All the passages you've read are so profound and right on in so many ways. And I just want to read more of it. So thank you for sharing that. It's just from the personal, the intertwining of understanding that rebirth and then outward to a community. It's like it's taken some years, and I can say, wow, other people get to see the view. We're finally getting it. It's becoming more global.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 70s and 80s, that wasn't a conversation, but here we are in 2021, and it's in a book. So please
Yeah.
share. Thank you.
Sometimes I think about, like, is it problematic to really consider gender this intensely, and to even the word feminism and womanism that's really centering one gender? And then, but then I also think, okay, how can we, it's kind of like the idea of being like, well, I see all colors when you're talking about race, or that you are colorblind. That's basically disregarding the oppression that a lot of people experience. So in particular, in womanism, it's acknowledging the oppression that women experience, but it's definitely not canceling out or disregarding or excluding people that identify of all genders, of all sexualities. I think about that a lot. I suppose I don't know if I'm conflicted, but it's something to consider. It's not at all excluding. But again, you could kind of go back to language and what kind of word would make sense in this.
I think it is important, as you said, when we think about centering any particular group, we have to ask ourselves the question, why is the focus here? And then if we look at the circle of life and look at who's centered and who rests on the margins. And whenever we do not coexist as a community where we all have a seat at that universal table and some of us are left out, we have to then refocus our attention to who's left out so we can bring them back to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think of this in that way, that we focus on womanist theory, or the idea focused on gender, because in many ways, gendered voices, gender meaning female voices, and non-heterosexual male voices, heterosexual male white voices, have not always, in our experience, particularly centering it in the US, have not been at the table. And so if we want to become an inclusive community and society, as our vision and mission here is at Triumph, we have to look around us and say, who has been left out of the table?
Mhm.
And if we are not willing to do that, then we are exclusionary. We have to be willing to look around and say, well, maybe they've been close to the table, but they've been sitting behind someone else. Let's give them a seat front and center so that all voices matter at this table. And in that regard, we have to look at race. We have to look at gender. We have to look at sexual orientation. We have to look at all these different levels, age, um, abled or disabled, differently abled. We have to look at all of these things. And our goal is to come to a place, I believe, where we don't have to center anyone because we're all there in the circle. We've left no one out.
Mhm.
That's the day that we seek to achieve, to attain to. Our aspiration is to go to that higher ground, that higher plane where everyone has a seat at the table and no one is left out. And on that day, we don't have to focus on any one particular group. Until then, we have to do that. And to not do that is to say they don't matter.
Mhm.
They're not as important as I am. And is to be blind to our own seat at the table in whatever level we have it.
Mhm. And being willing to accept, like being humble enough to say, okay, I was wrong, or I harmed someone with my actions or my words, or even if I was just ignorant and I didn't know, like being willing to accept that and not take it like personal, like I am a bad person because of this, but willing to change, making those changes immediately, like in an appropriate way.
But sometimes I think, as I look collectively at time and our migration as a people and as feminine, as females, and society, culture, and race, just with the actions and activities of the past year and this past week for sure, I'm so thankful I've lived as long as I have because I've seen a piece of history. I know things that have happened prior to now that as I talk to other people, they don't know. They don't know history, so they think right now stands on its own legs. And right now doesn't stand on its own legs. It's connected to lessons unlearned from the past.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't learn the lessons, we will repeat the history. And so there's so much history that is continually to be repeated. And so I ask myself, when will we ask the correct questions and stop assuming the right answers for that moment and time only, but not for the entire time of understanding our oneness? Means we have to really understand all of our history, not just my culture, but all of our cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And when have we ever embraced that concept?
Mm-hmm.
I asked the question to myself for the first time. Do I understand why African Americans are angry? Do I understand why indigenous cultures are angry? Do I understand why Caucasians are angry? Do I understand how many cultures hurt and why we hurt? Do I understand the injustices across the board? Am I naive and ignorant to many facts? Because we act out of hatred from pain and hurt and bitterness that's unresolved.
Mm-hmm.
Angela,
Just thought,
thank you. That idea of asking the right question is so powerful because until we ask the right question, the answers will always elude us. We have to, like Jeopardy, we have to frame it in the question. I wanted to just also just expand as you were talking. I thought about going back to Brenda, the term of intersectionality, why that is so key. And I want us to also look at this imagery of being at the table. And one may have a seat at the table, but historically, as Bandley said, maybe your voice was only allowed to speak in certain areas. So the argument could be, well, I've been at the table or you've been at the table, but listen, I wasn't heard when it came to my health and issues surrounding my own health or my own mental health or my own economic destiny. I was only allowed to be heard in these areas. And so it's coming to the table, but it's also validating one another's voices, one another's histories, as Vanderly said, our experiences. And validating that is simply to say, that's your story. I hear you. I hear your story and I hear your view of the world. And we all have a different view. And being able to come to the table and know that your voice can be heard across sectors, that women don't just have to speak about child rearing, even though that's very profound and a vital element or aspect of society. Men don't just have to speak in non-emotional terms. That men can speak about emotion and about nurturing and about parenting also. That we can, all of us can be validated in our voices. When we come to the table, you're not limited to any particular conversation or area. And I think that's important.
Thank you. It's 1:02, so I think that will close. I guess one little quote I want to share that's just in my mind. I couldn't tell you where it's from. I had a conversation with a friend, but like how we're thinking a lot about how the ultimate goal is quote unquote peace, but really, maybe this is from the musical Rent. The opposite of war is not peace, it is creation. I'm thinking that when we're just peaceful, maybe we're just doing nothing. Nothing's getting done. Everyone's just like, but if we are creating, we are cultivating, we are collaborating, we are working towards higher ground. So this idea that hopefully, eventually, together we can all create. Not just be in existence with each other, but like create with each other. That's an exciting concept.
It's interesting you said that, Brenda, just real quick. As you said that, it took me back to the piece of what you were saying on birthing. The opposite of war is we've ceased to birth that creation.
Mm-hmm.
We've ceased to produce that alternate way of seeing the world outside of violence. Very profound.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thanks for hearing me out. I spoke a lot today, and I appreciate you giving me this space and like joining in, engaging with me a little bit as I'm very interested in this type of thing. Give me a second, I'm going to share my screen again. I think that what we will do next is let's take some collective breaths together. And I think we're sharing a song, if that's cool. So I'll get that ready. Give me 1 second. Okay. Before we get into this, I'm gonna strike the bowl twice, and I invite you to just breathe, relax, adjust yourself if you need to. This song that we want to share is called Even Me. It was quoted in this book, and I wanted to include it. It's written by Elizabeth Codner, and we're going to share Albertina Walker's version of it. But first, even me. Lord, I hear of showers of blessings. Thou art scattering full and free. Showers the thirsty souls refreshing. Let some drops now fall on me. Even me, Lord, even me. Even me, yes, even me. Let some drops now fall on me. Let some drops fall on me. So let's see. Okay, in the interest of time, I will end it, but that was awesome. It must be so cool to be there in person. And I will share that video again with everybody. I'll share the link in the chat. Oh, that made me emotional. Okay. um, cool. So I'm gonna pass it over to Travis.
Is he muted? Travis, are you muted?
No.
Okay.
Invitation to join Triumph. Here's how you can become part of Triumph family. You can become a member of Triumph or start a Triumph group in your community. Email us and request more information. We're forming virtual groups through the country, and you become a spiritual leader and healer in this movement. You were once part of Triumph. You are still family, and we would love to welcome you back home. Email us and let us know you would like to reconnect with your Triumph family, and we will show you how. Your church or faith community can also become a part of the Triumph family as a friend of Triumph and share in the life of this community. Email us for more information at triumphlifecenter@gmail.com. You can also support our ongoing mission of healing, education, inspiring, and creating new ways of being in the community through financial donations, which are tax deductible at Cash App, $Triumph 2020, or mail to Triumph, the Church of the New Age, P.O. Box 2157, Newark, New Jersey 07114.
Thanks. So some final announcements before we close out. Again, our resource guide is available online. It's a Google document, and you can find a lot of the music, a lot of the literature that we discuss in our gatherings, as well as resources for food, financial aid, specifically in New York City. But if you need anything else, please let us know. Email us at triumphlifecenter@gmail.com. This week, again, we're having our virtual art series leading up to our annual board meeting. We're beginning on Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Here's our little flyer for it. The theme is rebirth and creation. If you have any creative work that you would like to share during the call, or if you're unable to make the call and you would still like to share your work, we will share it on social media, and just celebrate community together as we lead up to our board meeting on Saturday. Our newsletter, if you're interested in our newsletter from November, December, we have it. We can email it to you. We can send you a copy. Please let us know. Again, social media, we're all over the place. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Facebook. Find us. We're around town. And as always, continue to socially distance. Wear masks. Don't gather in large groups. Get tested if you're able to. If you feel ill, stay home. And continue to enjoy the new year. We only meet on Sundays, but we're here all week if you need us.
Brenda, before we go, leave the announcements. I just want to ditto our 117th year anniversary, this rebirth and renewal beginning January 20th, this Wednesday, 30 minutes, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 30 minutes of creativity, rebirth, renewal. Saturday is our business session, but Saturday morning, we're going to have our spiritual gathering beginning at 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. with our inspirational speaker, preacher, Pastor Eric Andrews. We will be sending out announcements and links for the Zoom room, and we'll be live on Facebook for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. If you are a member of Triumph or you want to join us as a guest at our afternoon session, our morning 10, send us an email and we'll include you in the gathering. I also want to give a shout out, as always, to our family in Brazil that's watching with us, and also to our family in Florida this morning that I see on Brown. Stay safe. We love you all. Thank you for being with us today.
Words to Live By. I Changed Myself, I Changed the World by Gloria Anzaldúa. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. Mexican proverb.
I love that song. All right, our closing prayer. May there be peace within us. May we know the God of our breath that dwells within all creation. May we be confident, knowing God is as near to us as our breath and as close as our heartbeat. May this knowing settle into our bones. and allow our souls the freedom to sing, dance, praise, and love. May we not forget the infinite possibilities that we are, as well as the divine responsibility that we each have to live in truth, show mercy, and uphold justice. May we use the gifts we have received and with generosity be love, give love, and receive love. May we know that a new way of being in community is possible and it is manifesting now. May we rejoice in truth, pursue peace, and uphold justice in 2021. May love be our compass and compassion our healing balm. May we be the love, peace, and joy that the world needs in the new year. Ashe.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, team. Wes, Trav, Nadia, Brenda, excellent job. Bandley, thanks for being with us. Those that are with us by social media or who'll be watching this, God bless you. Stay safe, be well. We love you. See you next time here at Charm Life. Team, stay on.